Hello friends and family of YouTube. Well, if you've been thinking about buying a camper and you're wondering if some of the features that are on there are really worth having, worth paying extra for, or if you're thinking about adding some extra features, I'm going to have the answers for you on that today as to whether it's really worthwhile of doing. I'm going to let you know about how some of these things hold up over time as well. I've got a friend that's been traveling full-time for 2.5 years, and he's going to give you a lot of great info on this video, so y'all stick around to the end. All right, some of you may remember my friend Mike, and we did a video a couple of years ago when he bought this camper. So at the end of the video, we'll have a link to it, and y'all can check that out. And so anyway, Mike, how long have you had this camper?
Oh, a little over 2 years, Dave.
And you've been how many states with it?
I think 13 or 14 now.
So you've had pretty good tests, and you can tell us what you like, dislike, what's been breaking, and all kinds of bad news, good news, and everything, right?
Yeah, well, you were the one that turned me on to this model and actually found a dealer for me, and I really appreciate it.
I was going to say I apologize, but I was glad to hear you say you appreciate it. So anyway, I asked Mike, I said, man, will you take us from front to back, inside out, and kind of tell us what you like, dislike? And so we're going to kind of start on the front here and talk about his electric tongue jack. I talk about those a lot on these videos. So Mike, what do you got to tell us about the electric tongue jack?
Well, on my prior trailer, I had a manual crank jack, and frankly, I thought this was not really that necessary, but it came as standard equipment on this particular unit, and I have to tell you, it's just wonderful.
And have you ever discovered how to operate it if it fails, how to move it up and down? That's something that I've always wondered about.
I have, and I've actually tested it.
Okay, good.
It's actually very, very easy to operate in a manual mode if you did have to crank it, if you lost power.
Good deal. Okay.
But it really is, I wouldn't say a lifesaver, but it's a very valuable convenience.
It's a back saver, isn't it?
It really is.
Okay, so on this one you've got two propane tanks, and on your other one you had only one.
Yeah, the two propane tanks, particularly if you're a boondocker, I think is a must.
Because we never know when we're going to run out.
We never know we're going to run out. I'll tell you this, from my experience, 99% of the time it's at 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
and
it's at a bad time, isn't it?
And with two tanks, I don't even have to swap tanks. I just come out, flip a valve,
yeah,
and I'm back in business.
And what do you got here? Is this a battery box? Is that what's going on there?
Yes, and that's one of the failings, not only of, I won't single out Coachman because it's typical of a lot of the campers today. They generally provide a single, they call them a deep cycle marine type battery. They range between 85 and 100, 110 amp hours. You really need a minimum of 2 batteries, somewhere around 100 amp hours each.
And the good of that too is you're not bottoming out that battery. You're not just wearing it plumb down to dead. If you've got 2 of them and all you're doing is maybe a few lights and etc., you're going to be less likely to run that thing all the way down and ruin your battery.
Most of these batteries you should not run more than 50% down, or you can damage the battery. So if you have 2, you can get some more useful life out of them.
Right. One thing I want to add to is hopefully you can see that the spare tire is mounted underneath the tongue of this trailer. Now I want you to think about this, folks. If you have a flat tire, bad enough you've done had a flat tire, and if it's on the side that you're laying out in the road trying to change your spare, now you've got to crawl on your belly looking upwards trying to unhook this spare tire. And to me that's kind of a headache that I wish no company would do this. There's so many different options you can do other than putting a spare tire up underneath a camper. Bad design. All right, Mike, so I want to ask you about, I always talk about on my videos as I go around a camper, I'll say it has 4 stabilizer jacks. Now, you and I both had a camper that only had 2, and this one has 4. Can you tell me the importance of having 4 versus 2?
Yeah, the 4 really makes it a lot more stable. Particularly this unit has a slide, and it really is important to keep the unit level and stable.
So as you're walking around in there, you can tell a huge difference whether you've got the stabilizers down or don't have them down.
Absolutely.
2 versus 4, etc.
A lot of times when I overnight and I just stop in a rest area, obviously I'm still hooked up.
Yeah.
I don't drop the stabilizers. I don't drop the jack.
Right.
And it's like when you're walking, it's like walking on the ocean.
Right.
You get those stabilizers down with all 4 and they're solid.
And I talk a lot about having outside storage. Is this, would you say, it's important to have it inside or outside or both, or what?
This is a pass-through storage, so you have doors on both sides, goes all the way through. This particular storage is the size of a queen bed, because that's what is sitting underneath.
Right.
And this is one of the most valuable features in the entire trailer.
Okay, good.
Because I can store almost everything and anything that I need
Okay.
Here, including 2 outdoor tables.
And right here we have a little box. This is a Furrion solar hookup. Now, you did some research. You got with me on this research. It's probably been a year ago, and I think you might have even commented on one of the videos about it. So tell us your findings of that particular, and I'll show it up close. I need everybody to see and hear about this, because that is very misleading.
Right. This is one of the most popular features today, but also one of the least valuable features in many campers, not just coachmen today. They call this solar ready. All that this really is a specially designed outlet. Okay, in this particular case it's Furrion, and this is wired directly to the battery harness, nothing more. It does allow you to take a suitcase portable small solar system that's on the ground,
right,
and plug it in here instead of having to hook it up to your batteries by alligator clamps. But that's all that this does. There's no magic.
But you've got to have your solar, whatever you're hooking up there, has to be able to read the batteries, because basically all this is a set of wires that goes from your solar straight to your battery.
Correct.
So if you're not careful, you can easily fry your batteries. If you tried to, let's say you got some solar panels at Harbor Freight, you didn't hook up everything. All you did was try just to hook your solar panels into that right there. You're gonna find some bad news.
You're gonna wreck your batteries.
That's
You're
right.
absolutely right, Dave. You still have to have a solar controller between the solar panels and this outlet.
Okay. And I've always felt like that was a little misleading, because I didn't know what was involved. I figured it was probably tied into the circuit system inside, and it's not. There's 2 wires going from that straight to the battery.
That's all this is.
Okay.
They make a big deal about it, but
Yeah.
all it is an easy connection.
Okay, now everybody that buys a camper looks at these awnings and the outside speakers. So what do you got to say about the awning? Is that something you use a lot, or is that kind of a waste, or what?
Well, I find the electric awnings one of the very best accessories ever.
Okay.
And as I had on my old trailer, and I think you have on yours, a manual
Yes.
operated awning.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, if I may, can I show you how simple?
Yeah.
And you'll end up using, if you have an electric awning, I don't mean to
Okay.
turn my back to you, but it's as simple as this.
Pushing a button. Yeah.
I can't open it all the way because of the trees.
Sure, yeah.
But it is just that
Can you draw that
simple.
back in?
And
Okay. And so you hadn't had any troubles with this in 2 years
absolutely not.
as a full-timer? Good
Nope.
deal.
And I love it. And as a friend said to me when I got it, he said, you're going to love this and you're going to use it much more frequently than the manual awning. And boy, was he right.
Okay, now I'm guessing these outside speakers sound like total crap. Am I right?
Yeah, not quite that bad, but they're not great.
So out of 10, they're a 5?
Yeah, not much more than that.
Okay.
And one thing that's kind of funny, and you got to look at some of the designs. If you'll notice, when this door is open, it actually blocks one of the speakers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, if I'm entertaining or listening to music outside, I have to make it a point to shut the door.
Yeah, if not, you're going to be going mono instead of stereo.
Some campers, they were a little bit better designed, but
Yeah. Well, I've seen campers, and I've shown on some of my videos where the bathroom door they'd put a left-hand door in a slide unit, and if the slide's closed, you couldn't open the bathroom. And if they would have just put a right-hand door instead of a left-hand door, you could open it. And I'm thinking, how smart did the designers have to be to figure it out, or in that case, not figure it out?
And you bring up a very good point about the slide. I just want to mention, if you're doing a lot of in transit now, whether you overnight in a Walmart or whether you overnight in a rest stop, and you're just in transit, and you're just one night, you're not camping, you're just tired and you need to get off the road. One nice thing about this design, when the slide is fully in, I can access every single thing in the unit: the bathroom, the refrigerator,
right,
my bed, the kitchen sink, everything except one drawer, cutlery drawer. And that's kind of important, because some units, you can't get to the bathroom or you can't get to the refrigerator when the slide is in.
And I've been criticized before because I've talked about that. I would say if you were gonna camp in a Walmart parking lot, you could go on some of my videos where I have said you could camp in Walmart parking lot without letting your slide out, and I would catch so much hell over that statement.
It's important.
That's what I thought.
It really is important.
And people that don't understand why you camp at Walmart, you've been on the road for 4 years, and how many times did you say you've hooked up to electricity?
Three times total in 4 years.
So you can stay for free at Walmart, or you can go pay $50 at a campground.
Or stay in an overnight rest area on the interstates.
Yeah.
I only do that when I'm in transit, but it's important to have a place to be able to stay.
Tell us about your tires. I know that you've changed the tires that came on here. You now have Goodyear. Tell us about the factory tires that you had on this particular unit.
Sadly, that's probably the weakest point of the trailer. And again, not just this brand of Coachman and not this particular model, but it seems to be fairly universal across the industry.
How soon in your 4 years did those go out on you?
That tire,
or 2 years, I said
it
4,
exploded within 3 months and less than 2,000 miles.
Wow.
And when it exploded, and it was a cool temperature and moderately low speed on the highway,
right,
not overloaded, and they aptly have the name China bombs.
That's what people, if you're not familiar with that term, folks, if you're new to the camping industry, a lot of people refer to the factory tires, just the rubber tires. They refer to those as China bombs because of exactly what he's talking about. They're made in China and they blow up like a bomb.
And they blow up like a bomb. And when mine blew up, it wiped out my entire gray water system, took out all the valves, broke the pipes, knocked out a lot of trim on the other side of the trailer, did way more than $1,000 worth of damage.
And it's good that you know how to work on your camper, and that's something we spoke about in another video, is that you really need, if you're gonna camp, you need to be handy. Because if you would have taken this to a dealership, that thing would have sat at the dealership for months.
Yes.
And it would have cost you thousands.
It would have cost me thousands. And
you fixed it yourself, or?
I fixed it myself. I got, even including new tires, for less than several $100s.
Right.
I now have Goodyear Endurance tires. They're expensive. It's the one item I would absolutely suggest nobody skimp on.
And yours are E-rated now, and the China bombs that were on there were,
I believe they were C-rated.
I think they were as well.
Load range C. These are load range E. I wanted to even go to load range F, but I would have had to get brand new wheels, and there was serious question as to whether they would clear the fender wells. So I had to settle for the E, which is still a major upgrade. And I can't say enough about the Goodyear Endurance tires. They're a little bit pricey, but when your life depends on it and your whole world depends on it, a few dollars extra is well worth it.
And I'll add one more thing to this, and then we'll move to something else, is that on the tires, you have a load range, and that load range comes in a letter, A, B, C, D, E, whatever. And that basically tells you how strong rated that tire is. And if you notice, like if this tire, one tire is rated for 1,500 pounds, they will put just 2 of them, being one axle, having 2 tires on a 3,000 pound trailer, basically you're maxed out.
Exactly. And there's one other thing to look for on trailer tires in particular, and that is, I don't think I can easily find it here now quickly, but you'll find a little oval impression that has 4 digits. It's just simply 4 digits.
Right.
Those 4 digits represent the week and the year of manufacturer.
Right.
Be aware that trailer manufacturers buy tires by the trailer truck load.
Right.
And they store them in a warehouse, and then they'll pull them out and install them as, you know, as they have,
as
product
needed.
comes off the, yeah, as needed as it comes off the production line.
Okay, if you notice, Mike has got a rack system that is mounted to the back bumper here, and hopefully you can see right there is a clamp system that goes around this this back bumper. Now, when Mike purchased this camper at a dealership, and I'm not going to mention any names of the dealership or any of that, we're not getting into that today, but the guys in the warehouse, me and you were trying to take them to school, and they didn't want to go to school.
No.
We were telling them that you can only put, I think it's 100 pounds. It's not much.
These bumpers are not designed to support.
They're hollow. They're hollow steel. They're really not.
And it's quite thin gauge.
It is very thin gauge. And so anyway, we were telling the guys, you can't put a generator on this rack. This rack itself weighs, you know, probably 60 pounds, and the generator weighs another 100. And they were like, we do it all the time. Mm-hmm. Boy, we hated to hear that. It's like, I hate knowing how many people are out there with something heavy on the bumper. And you had an episode on your first camper to where those guys didn't do it correctly either, and you about lost the whole system.
And I almost lost the whole rack, generator, everything.
And, you know, to me, to think about a generator coming off of here, going through the front of a Corolla is probably going to cost you or your insurance company about $6,000.
Might cost you your whole house.
That's right. But you went to a reputable welder, and he did some welded this directly to the frame. That's what you need to do, folks. If you're going to add a system like this, if you're going to have a lot of heavy weight on the back of your camper, do not have it bolted to this hollow tube. If you do, you are really pressing your luck. You really need to have that thing welded to the frame. There needs to be some supports going to the frame. Now, you brought up a good point about your outside shower. I talk about these outside showers a lot. I've never had one, so you tell me, how many times in 2 years have you used this?
Maybe 3 or 4 times.
Okay.
It's funny because when I was first considering this trailer, it was the first one that had an outdoor shower that I owned. And I was pretty excited. I actually thought it was a pretty nice feature to be useful.
Right.
Well, in the real world and everyday life, I've used it to clean my dog, clean off some muddy shoes. But the fact of the matter is, I've only used it 3 or 4 times in 2 years. It's just one of those things that kind of looks good, sounds good, but it just
not practical.
Is not that practical.
Okay. Now, a lot of campers too, I will talk about them having a pre-wired for a backup camera right above the lights and where it says freedom. So you do not have that set up. Have you ever wished you had it?
I don't, and personally, it doesn't bother me. I was a boater for many, many years. I've been driving trailers of one form or another for a good long number of decades.
Right.
So I'm pretty good at backing up.
Yeah.
Just using mirrors on a truck. I think it can be very, very useful for new people who are not accustomed to towing trailers or backing them up.
Or maybe some elderly people that can't turn their heads quite as well, or their vision might not be as great. But we've all seen the funny, well, they're not so funny videos of somebody trying to back up, and you know, they probably needed that backup camera. Let's be honest. Me and you don't need it. Maybe everybody don't, but
and the other consideration is like so many of these technological things, the price on backup cameras has dropped very dramatically in the last couple of years. So
yeah,
if you find it's helpful for you or you think you need it, go for it, because it's not an expensive add-on.
But it's not a deal breaker if you didn't get it.
Not a deal breaker
if you can back up a camper.
Yep.
All right, Mike, one thing that I notice in a lot of campers, and I never talk about them, they're in every camper. It's a law that they do have to have these fire extinguishers, or sometimes I refer to them as fire stinker. But anyway, you could see that that thing's a joke. And tell me a little bit about what you've done here.
Well, fire is always a concern, whether it's a stick and bricks house, but particularly in a unit like this, where you have, you know, different electrical and propane and gasoline. So you always have to be aware of fire, and this is typically what comes in most units. Okay, it's just, I think it's a toy.
Right.
It won't do more than maybe put a frying pan fire out if you're lucky.
So it's so that they can technically say they gave you a fire extinguisher.
Exactly. So they comply with the law, and that's all they need to do is to have something like this. This is not acceptable for me. It's okay to have in the kitchen next if you have a small kitchen fire, but I go with a full 5-pound multi-use fire extinguisher. Gives me more of a fighting chance.
All right, and while we're talking about fire and heat, you have a faux fireplace, and I see these things all the time in campers, a faux fireplace. What do you, 2 years, how many times have you used it?
I probably only turned it on once or twice. I don't know, I just don't find it a lot of value. The second thing is the heater. Mine is, well, we got some stuff in there, we can't look at it right now, but mine's mounted about neck high in the cabin. So the heat is already very, very high, and with heat rising, yet to get it comfortable in there,
so if you stood up, you'd have cold feet, is what you're saying?
You'd have cold feet, you'd have a very hot head. And I just don't find them to be particularly practical. Yeah. Some people like them for the simulated fire effect.
So you do have you have an ambiance level you can turn it on where it's not producing any heat, and then you do have a heat switch that you can turn on. So as far as the ambiance deal, have you used that many times, or?
I really haven't. Okay. For me, it's just not an important thing, and
I
just don't use it that much. Some people may like it.
Okay. So, and the reason I want to point that out is I know there's some people thinking it's a deal breaker, you know, or they might want to think about adding that to a camper. So I like for them to have that food for thought so that they can think about whether it's really a realistic thing to get or not. You also, this model is supposed to come with heated underbelly.
Yes, this is what they call a 3-season model. It has a plastic sheeting on the bottom. Well, you can't see it standing up there.
Sure.
But, and the furnace has a duct that goes into the belly to heat up that quote sealed area. Well, number one, it's not sealed very tight, and number two, the furnace has to be running to provide any heat whatsoever. And third, I don't run my furnace very often. A furnace consumes a lot of 12-volt power, and it consumes a lot of propane. I prefer to use a portable catalytic propane heater. I use a model called Mr. Heater, but there's several. Wave 3 is another one. Much more efficient. I get more even heat. I got a warmer cabin, and I use a fraction of the propane that I would use if I run my furnace. So I only run the furnace for about 10 minutes a month just to exercise the motor, the blower, and the sail switch.
Wow. Appreciate that. All right, so I want to ask you about the jackknife sofa. I know every camper just about nowadays has one. How comfortable is it to use as a couch, and how comfortable is it to use as a bed?
Well, first of all, I have to correct you, Dave. I would not use the word comfortable in the same context as either the sofa or the bed.
Okay.
It is a very uncomfortable seating device.
Okay.
It's already broken down quite a bit, and as you can see, I'm not that big of a guy, not that heavy.
Right.
As a couch, it's marginally comfortable, and it does jackknife off into a sofa, and that is into a bed, I mean.
Yeah.
And that is horribly uncomfortable. The sections just, they don't line up at all.
Yeah.
And it's just a very uncomfortable piece of furniture.
If you're sitting on it for 2 hours, it's okay. If you were trying to sleep on it for more than how many hours?
Oh, I'll tell you, it is so uncomfortable in the jackknife position that if I want to stretch out and take a nap or watch TV,
Right.
I'll just sit on it. I mean, I'll just lay down on it like a normal sofa. I don't even open the jackknife. It's that uncomfortable.
Okay. All right. Now, while we're talking about uncomfortable sleeping, what about your factory bed that came with this thing?
Factory bed is one of the biggest disappointments of the whole trailer.
Yeah.
It came with you know, a high brand, I think it was Sealy labeled.
Sealy or Serta, one of
Sealy
those.
or Serta labeled mattress. Basically, the bed itself forms the storage compartment. It's a queen size bed, and the base forms the base of the bed.
Right.
Is basically the storage compartment of the
Right.
trailer. And it originally comes with a 3 or 4 inch Sealy or Serta mattress,
Which is a spring type, right?
which is a spring or stuffing.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what.
Yeah.
Of course, no box spring.
That's right.
Just a mattress, and I found it terribly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I've now gone through 3 or 4. I tried an air bed. I've tried a simple air mattress. Some people told me I should have put a topper on it, a foam topper.
Right.
I finally ended up with about a 16-inch multiple foam mattress that finally seems to do the job.
Cool.
But the original mattress is
Trash.
torture.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, I told you I had some good info for you. Hey, if y'all have been wanting to buy a new camper, if you're kind of new to the system, he gave you a lot of good food for thought. So hopefully it has helped you out. He does have a Facebook page. It is called Meet in Q, and I will have a link to it down below. And soon he will be coming out with a YouTube channel. You'll also be able to find that at some links to that through his Facebook as well. Appreciate y'all hanging out with me today. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Hope to see y'all again soon, and I can't wait to read some of your comments that you're going to put down below. See y'all. Bye-bye.